Hello, hello. What is going on? Half day Wednesday, right? No, no. I think we've talked about this before. I just want everyone to hear it just in case I haven't mentioned it in a class or whatever. It's not a half day. We're still getting in all 5 classes. They're just smushed together, slightly shorter, a couple of minutes, but we don't have flex, which is usually a good place to catch your breath. We don't have recess. We don't have lunch. So it's basically a full day, just all of the funner thing. I don't know if anything at school can be fun, but some of the funner things have been just eliminated. So it's a full day. It's sort of a full day. No breaks, just churn out a couple classes, right? 5 classes back to back. All right, let's talk about day 3 here with your narrative. Hopefully it's beginning to take shape. I know mine is. I try to spend about 10 or 15 minutes a day, about the same amount of time you have in class. Of course, I've been writing a little bit longer, so some of these things might come a little bit easier to me. I get that. But let's take a look at mine. And I added some dialogue. Like if I was a really good teacher, like Mr. Jurowitz, I might require dialogue to be put into this nonfiction narrative, but I don't think it's necessary. It can be super helpful though. One thing that dialogue does for a reader is it actually puts them in the position you were in, right? It gets them right there, kind of gets them closer to the action. All right. And I did that here. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can punctuate some of your dialogue and a few tricks that you might want to use. All right. I got some examples, but let's take a look at what it's looking like. I'll just scroll down here. So starting there, it's starting to look like a nonfiction narrative. Getting a little bit longer. I got some dialogue in the middle there. So with dialogue, this is important. Every time a new person speaks, you want to make that a new paragraph. Okay. And some have asked about the rubric. Just want to be clear about that. There's no actual rubric here. I'm looking for 25 good. More is always good. Hey, how about this? When you use I as a pronoun talking about yourself, I went to the store, capitalize that thing. All right? Come on. Everybody knows that, I hope. Capitalize that thing. I'm not going to be taking points off for grammar, but if it looks like I don't even care, I'm just going to, you don't even really bother to hit the shift button to capitalize the I, I'll probably take some points off. Probably not every time I see it, but as I'm reading it, I will probably start seething what? I'll probably try to take off a few points there, okay? Maybe not every single one I see, but every other one maybe, something like that. Capitalize the first letter of your sentence. Come on. All right. So let's take a look at mine. I am going to start with my dialogue here, and I'm hoping that it's going to put you in the situation, where I'm at, okay? I think I added this right here. Yeah. So I added in the blue, I pretty much added just this right here, but it kind of fills things out. So in the blue, I don't want to be known as the guy who took the test 3 times or more. All right. Hard question here. You can write an entire book and not know this, but those 3 dots right there, what's that called? It's not easy to say. Please raise your hand. May have a little something for you if you know it. Okay, those are called ellipses. And we will get really familiar with them when we get into the informational writing, but I don't even know if we talked about it earlier when finding evidence for Google Forms. But when you're writing nonfiction, ellipses can be great to just make the reader pause a little bit, make them think about what they're reading. It's like a dramatic pause. So I wanted to put that in. I don't want to be known as the guy who took the test 3 times or more. Now, this is where the dialogue starts. And how do we know it's dialogue? Well, there are these little things called quotation marks. They start at the beginning and the end of what is actually being said. So it's a lot like when you're finding evidence and you're directly quoting something. A direct quote in nonfiction, well, this in fiction or whatever, is word for word what somebody said. Okay, so it's very much like what we've done with the evidence and on the Google Forms. So again, I don't know. This was like 30 years ago. I don't remember exactly what my mom said word for word. I just kind of filled in the blanks. Like I'm not even sure if this conversation took place on a couch, but it just sounded like it would to me. I don't think it did. But this is what I wrote right here. 2 lines of dialogue, pretty much my mom talking to me talking back to her politely. Just I'm responding. Just take the test again right now while it's fresh in your mind. I don't mind paying again. My mom offered. You know what? And as I read that out loud, like I say again twice, I say it right here, and then I say it again. I don't need to say it twice. And it probably hits a little bit harder if I don't, right? I don't mind paying. My mom offered. I could have put said, could change it there, but I thought offered felt right. Do not be afraid of said. Do not be afraid of said. Some writers try to get all fancy, said, retorted, responded. Said is fine. If you put in enough saids, you don't want to put too many in a row, but it kind of just blends into everything else. Like when the reader is reading it in their mind or whatever, they're probably skipping over that said. It's okay. Don't be afraid of said. You can use said quite a bit. I didn't use it there. I might have, in here, I didn't even use any kind of marker to say like what I'm saying here. I started off with some direction. So you can do that too. Like have the character do something to let the reader know they're talking, but you don't have to say said, I said. It's not anywhere there. You just kind of know I'm saying it. Sitting next to her on the couch, I pulled a blanket over my face. Period. I don't need anything that says that I am talking here. Like the reader should know that based on I'm the one doing some movement. I'm tired. I really don't want to talk about this now, okay? And my parents dropped it for a while. I think they could see how defeated I felt. So that's about all I wrote right there. But I had another word here instead of felt. I can't remember what it was, but how defeated I felt. I wanted those 2 F sounds at the end of that sentence. So sometimes you can mess with your words like there. Find a synonym. That's why synonyms, one reason why synonyms are so important. Like you might have the same meaning for a word. It just might, hit a little differently right at the end there. Just feels better than another word. I think felt, defeated, I felt. I think it works. All right, let's look at some examples that I wrote here about how you could go all the way down here. We've already talked about these things, right? So these are the new things. And we'll talk about how you should be, make it bigger so you can see it, how you should punctuate these things. So Bean said, comma. So at the beginning, the comma is not inside the quotation marks. Those 2 little lines above the word, the letters there. Bean said, comma, I'm going to eat all of this food here. Now at the end, your end mark, whatever it is, a question mark, a period, exclamation point, whatever that end mark is, it should always come inside the quotes. All right. It should always come inside the quotes. Most of the time, if you look through Frankenbeans, I start off with saying who is doing the talking. Just like you might see that. And I think Bean said, whatever, it works. I don't have to get all fancy with Beans exclaimed or something like that. Said works pretty well. The next one with the man here on the bus, stepping off the bus, the man said, it's going to be a good day. You can see comma still there, period inside the quotes. But instead of just having a line of dialogue, what I wanted to do was have the man do something, move along the action, right? I could have had the man stepped off the bus. The man said, just try to make it easier for the reader. Combine some words there, combine some sentences. Let's see the next one. Oh, so there's a little bit more emotion here. So I did use screamed. All right. Teacher slapped the desk and screamed, "Stop talking now." And I do have an exclamation point, but it's still inside the quotes. I still have a comma before what is being said. Now I could have just take that out, period. The teacher slapped the desk. Stop talking now. We know who was yelling that. We don't have to hear that she's yelling or he's yelling or whatever. You can take that right out. But some action that lets the reader know who's doing the talking. All right, the next one. Jake looked over at the tree. "Where'd that guy go?" he asked. So this one's a little bit different because the indicator of who is talking comes at the end. And I do have a question right there, a question mark. So again, the end mark is inside the quotes. And then I have he asked. Let's pretend that this was not a question. The comma would go inside there. And I could just change it like he went that way. All right. The man went that way. Hope that makes sense. And then I would change that to said. Something like that. Okay. The man went that way, comma. If it's just a statement, a period doesn't go in there. It would be a comma. I don't do this that often. Maybe to mix it up if I have a lot of dialogue, but I don't like the reader having to figure out like who is saying what. But if I have Jake at the beginning here, as long as it's not a different paragraph. So if like Jake look over at the tree, okay, but somebody else is talking, I would have to make it another paragraph. I don't know, maybe Jake's brother or something like that, or sister or whatever. Jake's brother said. So every time you have another person talking, you have to make that a new paragraph. Cool. And again, this one, no comma here because I'm not saying she said anything. I do have some action there. Wendy stopped chewing, period. Quotation mark. I forgot my phone in the classroom, period. Who knows? Maybe if you want to let the reader just give her a little indication that she's a little bit more excited than just a period there. I forgot my phone in the classroom. Just put an exclamation mark. All right. Not a half day today. It's a early release. Let's call it that. It's a little shorter, but you might leave here just as tired as if it was a regular day. All right. Working class, beans, you know the drill.